I am going to make the case for doing a variety of rep ranges if you want to maximize gains. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. So, you're going to see me through the course of this video doing about 3 different rep ranges. It's just some sample videos I pulled from this week's training. All right, you'll see me doing some actually sub-maximal triples and stuff. Some of these are lifts that I can do more reps, but they're still relatively heavy. So you'll see me doing some triples, see me doing like some 12s, and then some 20s, right? Actually, you have stuff that's around actually 5 to 12, and then you'll see me doing some 20 rep stuff. And for me, these are kind of the 3 rep ranges that I really, really like. Here's why I would recommend doing a lot of them. A lot of people say, well, don't we have just certain ranges and they'll all build hypertrophy? Yeah, but they bring different elements to the table. And then the thing to think about is the overlap and practicality of them. 2 of them are obvious. Like you'll see me doing, deadlifts, and you'll see me doing band curls. So these are kind of make sense. Anyone who's ever done high rep deadlifts, you know what I'm talking about. You guys have seen me do 10 or 12 rep sets on deadlifts and you are dead. All right, if you're going to deadlift or even squat, you don't want to do a bunch of 10 to 12s. It is grueling, it's fatiguing, right? Particularly if you're strong. If you're more novice, not a big deal. They bury you. And these are big lifts that it just makes sense to go heavy because we get the most potential for strength because they're big, big barbell exercises, okay? Then we can take the other approach, obviously, on bands. From the practicality, are you really going to do 3 rep sets on bands? Are you really almost 10s are almost too hard? So a lot of band work, I like 15, 20, sometimes even 50 or 100 rep sets, right? Depending on what we're doing. And it makes sense. It makes sense in that context to do so, okay? Because it's practical. Certain exercises just lend themselves to that. And a lot of even smaller movements. I mean, again, a tricep extension, a curl. We start doing 3 to 5 reps. You guys know what I'm talking about. Your joints start hurting. Right? This becomes a problem very, very quickly. It's just not practical. So being more medium rep for those to higher rep makes a lot of sense. Okay? So you have to look at the practical aspect of some of these. Some of these you have to step back and go, yeah, that just makes sense. Right? It makes sense. It's practical. It's pragmatic. That's why. But let's talk about what we get in terms of potential overlap, neural drive. All right. Some stuff like really, really low reps. The 1 to 3 rep range is really where we build the most strength. That's where we get the most neural drive, all the neuromuscular efficiency. Okay. Again, if we want to get really strong, and this will carry over to your other stuff, people are like, yeah, but does that really carry over to your other stuff? Of course it does. Neural drive will still improve over time your ability to do 10 rep sets. There's a case to be made for that. There's some even limited data on that. So yes, if you're trying to get the most out of, say, your 10 rep sets, it makes sense to do them. Then we have to do with debates of, there's some experts who do say that there are different potential hypertrophy benefits of doing these different rep ranges sometimes. And I think there's a degree of truth to that. Now, does that mean a person can't absolutely maximize everything doing 10s? No, I think that you can. In fact, if I was going to pick something that was practical to only do 1 rep range, I could do 8 to 12 all day long, and I don't see a problem with that. So let me be clear there. I think a person could easily do 8 to 12 rep sets and nothing else, right? I think you could do that and nothing else and be just fine. I think you can get jacked, and I think it works. So if I was going to pick only 1 rep range, that actually makes a lot of sense. And I think that can make a lot of sense even for bodybuilding perspectives. But we can't discount the fact that there are neural drive benefits of going a little heavier on some other stuff. But I might reach a point in my life where I go to all, 10 or 12 or 8 to 12. I might do that one day. And I would be just fine with that. I feel like I would be strong, jacked everything else. So I don't want it to sound like I don't think that's viable. I could come in and do it just for simplicity's sake and be just fine. I could be happy doing it. No issues. But there's also the fact that there's some people who suggested, even researchers, the heavier work may improve overall muscle density a little bit better too. Okay, get that little bit denser, harder muscle look due to possibly more myofibular growth. That has to be factored in with doing some low rep work. All right, so then where do we get into that whole 8 to 12, that old hypertrophy range? Well, I think we benefit from doing a lot of work there, to be honest. Why? Because it doesn't beat you up the way the heavier stuff does, and it's not as grueling as higher rep in terms of just fatigue that drains you. So it's a good middle ground. And I would say that it would make sense to do most of your training close to that. Right? It does make some sense. You know, particularly if you're looking for just a balance, just overall balance approach, I don't think it's a problem. I think it can be fine. I think it can be good. I think people are going to be very successful there. And in fact, I tend to, even though I'm big on mixing rep ranges, I think everyone should do a little heavy work. Some of my clients literally only do 3 exercises ever heavy, squat, bench, deadlift, or whatever, right? But I digress. That 8 to 12, we could do a lot of work there. And I think it's a good spot to do the majority of your work. It's going to be extremely effective, and I'm an advocate for that. But there are benefits to the other rep ranges, maybe just a small amount of additional gains to be had. Then we get over to this really high rep stuff like you see here, like 20s or whatever with the bands. Why? Potential tendon health. Also, metabolic fatigue is accumulated higher here. There's different stress involved. The other point that when we look at some of that, for some smaller exercises, it works really well. For tendon health, blood flow works really, really well. I think particularly on movements like these, I think it can be an asset. Prehab type movements like reverse hypers, band work, all that stuff. I love 20s. I love 20 to 25 for that stuff. But there's also the possibility that it may have some extra muscle growth benefits, right? Because just like these others, there have been experts who said, look, we think one day we're going to find data on this that's going to show that different rep ranges do have some separate pathways by which they could cause muscle growth that the others are not. And if that's the case, it doesn't mean you need an even split. People say, oh, so we need to just do an even split. No. You could do most of them in that other rep range, that middle rep range. Okay? But you would probably benefit from doing a small amount of really heavy stuff, and you would then probably benefit from a little bit of really high rep stuff. And I think particularly for weak links, right? Things that really need the most work. And it makes a lot of sense for stuff like biceps, triceps, all that. Hey, my opinion. I like it for things like forearms too. Right? Again, makes a lot of sense in that context, just because some of those muscles are smaller and they seem to respond well to that. Okay. So again, I'm going to make the case that it actually does make sense for overall training response and practicality sometimes to include multiple rep ranges. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.